Today on the Topping Show, Austin Metcalf family is swatted. The White House confirms the COVID lab leak and Fauci's attempted cover-up. The Mini Cooper ditches their plans to go 100% EV. Lowe's is buying Artisan Design Group for over $1 billion. Subaru blames the European Union government for why we don't have a cool WRX STI. And Ford recalls over 80,000 of their F-150s. All of that and much more on the Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of the Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see their founder at least twice a day. Guys, he's quite handsome and brilliant. He's me, see, that's a joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, you can reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with Picatinny rail adapter, so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 if you prefer. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shooting a flamethrower, or click the URL in the video description below. And lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have some good news. Mini Cooper ditches their plans to go all EV. They will keep the gas engine alive. Now, let's just hope it has 3 pedals like they should all have by default. Now, this is brought to us thanks to MotorOne.com, specifically Adrian, who's one of, well, I think one of the best writers over there. And they say, quote, Mini changes course, won't abandon gas engines. The brand concedes that internal combustion engines is, quote, still very much a thing, probably because they still very much want to be in business. And yeah, if you want a fun hot hatch for the track or car that'll go, more than just 60 miles, you want gas engine. I know EVs will go slightly longer than that, but again, if you want an actual fun hot hatch, you're going to need a gas engine, as well as a car that'll, last more than 10 years. You can see one of the Mini Coopers right there, which, look, not too shabby. They were really hot track cars for a couple years. I'm hoping they make a comeback. It's one of the few fun coupes out there. Now, he says, quote, it feels like I've written this headline a dozen times, but with the names of other automakers. Instead, one by one, lofty EV goals are topping like dominoes, or rather toppling like dominoes, though topping is a cool name, obviously. We've seen brands get swept up with zero emissions hype, boldly declaring deadlines that phase out combustion engines only to quietly walk them back a few years later. Case in point, Mini. In 2021, the BMW-owned brand announced it would go fully electric at the decade's end. Yeah, that's not happening anymore. The company has come to terms with the reality that gas cars will reign supreme and will be for the foreseeable future. In an interview with Automotive News, Michael Payton, Mini's VP for Americas, admits all-electric dream is being put on ice, pun intended. I appreciate a good pun. And here you can see the rear of that hot hatch. That's the Cooper S specifically in the picture, which, almost looks like it's a bastardized Hyundai in regards to the rear taillights. But besides that, it looks kind of cool. Now, again, this is Michael Payton, the Mini VP for North America, says, quote, we're still moving in that direction, but we've seen particularly for North America, ICE is still very much a thing for the foreseeable future. So we've changed a bit of our approach as a brand going ICE longer, unquote. I was going to say, this one looks really funky. Got a green Cooper right there. Ugh. Looks like an EV. No grill. Ugh. And more angles than Hyundai. Who's on the design team? Did they steal someone or poach a talent over there? Now, getting back to the article they take out. In that in mind, Payton added that the Mini will continue to spend money on gasoline-fueled cars. You'll see an investment in new ICE products. We're going to continue making sure that we're building products for those customers. He even floated the idea of a new ICE-powered crossover, one that would fill the gap left by the cancellation of the Aceman for the US, which, does that gap really exist? How many people really want that? I don't think too many. They say the Chinese-made EV was supposed to come to North America, but tariffs got in the way. With the Mini changing its mind and deciding not to make Aceman at the home in the Oxford, UK, from 2026 on, the subcompact electric crossover won't come to the US. Payton also rolled out producing the Aceman at the BMW's Spartanburg, South Carolina plant, citing a lack of supplier support for assembling the model locally. The 3-door electric Cooper hatchback isn't coming to the US for similar reasons. Mini even had plans for an electric convertible, but that's not happening either. Yeah. I laugh because that's especially silly. It is sad that convertibles on average are also a dying breed in the United States. We're seeing less and less offerings of it, and consumers are not buying them even in a fraction of what they used to be. So yeah, the idea of an electric Mini EV, I mean, talk about a niche of a niche of a niche market. Again, it's there, but it's like 17 people in San Francisco. Okay, maybe 18. Now he says, quote, Still, there's some interesting ideas. Peyton hinted at revising the idea of a, quote, true Mini, maybe something inspired by the Rockman concept. That'd be neat to see. A larger model slotted above the Countryman is also on the table. He did make it crystal clear that a truck is not on the agenda since there isn't a market for a Mini pickup. Well, at least they're that self-aware. That's something. It's worth noting the original Mini brand from pre-BMW did sell its two-door trucks. Yeah, that brand is also trash in terms of fiscally speaking. Yeah, they never made a profit, like in decades. That BMW resurrected and saved the brand. Now, they say Mini isn't the only BMW group brand that has set its sights on becoming pure electric. Rolls-Royce still intends to drop their iconic V12 at the early 2030s. Ridiculous. I'm not sure how inebriated they are, but yeah, it sounds like they're going to still make some good Minis. Hopefully, they'll bring back the third pedal. They canceled that a little while back, which, of all the cars where you want a stick shift, a hot hatch is one of them. I think one of my favorite ones, debatably not reliable, but Ford Focus ST, those are really great bang for your buck, as long as you have money for the repair bills. But yeah, some great news coming from Mini, and well, I would say from their parent company to BMW. And we'll see. Again, this brand has been dying past couple of years with their sales going lower and lower. Hopefully, sales pick up for them, and they're able to make some more fun hot hatches as there's less and less options every day, it seems. But let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news, you have Lowe's buying Artisan Design Group for over $1 billion, which is quite a pretty penny. Now, this is brought to us thanks to Gabe at USA Today. And he says, quote, Lowe's acquires Artisan Design Group in move to renovate strategy, compete with the Home Depot. Yeah, we'll see about that. Compete with the Home Depot? I don't know. I mean, that's kind of a different customer altogether. I'm not sure how that would really pan out. Now, again, it's credited to Gabe Harari, who's the writer over there. He says, quote, Home improvement retailer Lowe's announced earlier that it will be acquiring Artisan Design Group for over $1.3 billion, nearly a year after rival Home Depot made a similar move, which I believe there's SRS Distribution out of McKinney, Texas, is what Home Depot bought out. Now they say ADG, headquartered in Dallas, Texas, is, quote, leading nationwide provider of design, distribution, and installation services that focus on flooring, cabinets, and countertops. They say the design company currently operates 132 distribution, design, and service facilities and coordinates installations through 3,200 personnel across 18 states, according to the announcement. Lowe's said ADG will help expand Lowe's pro business, that's the thing, in the approximately $50 billion interior finishes market. This is from Mr. Marvin Ellison, Lowe's chairman, saying, quote, with more than 18 million homes needed in the United States by 2033, we expect new home construction will be a major driver of pro-planned spend over the next decade. Makes sense. Now, they also say that he's their CEO as well. He says the acquisition of ADC Group allows us to build upon our momentum with pro-planning spend that is expected to, expand the total addressable market by approximately $50 billion. And I was right. Home Depot did buy SRS Distribution in June 2024 for $18 billion. So a very interesting move on Lowe's part as they try to go after more for the pro or contractors, which I almost wonder if they alienate their core customer, which is, women. It's the prosumer. It's the people who want to do a couple things around the house. When you look at like commercial grade and how the companies were started, Home Depot very much is about those big contracts with professionals to do it for a living, and you can kind of see that reflected in not just the operations, but how the stores are even laid out. Home Depot has a whole section for contractors to drive up, pick up materials. They have their whole professional accounting with them, or rather, they have their account representatives, and they have commercial discounts. And Lowe's was much more. Their whole imagery and the whole perception is more easy to approach. You don't need to be a professional by any means to go shop there. They'll kind of hold your hand a little bit more. And it's interesting to see them going after these two different markets. So they seem to be almost intersecting, as Home Depot seems to be trying to go after their individual prosumers, and Lowe's is trying to now go after the contractor, which again, that is quite literally, as I mentioned, a huge industry and huge opportunity. And in terms of dollar spend, I would suspect it's greater than the individuals who just do a couple tinkering things around the house. But let me know, do you think this might potentially alienate their core audience or core customer? Or do you think this might help the company round out their offering and compete better with the Home Depot? Shoot. I'm trying to think last times I went to Lowe's a couple months ago. No. A year ago for some mulch. It was a while back. But it's one of those things where, I don't know, if you want a better selection of tools and, actual, I would say, a greater selection of hardware for doing things and fixing things and more commercial grade things, I mean, it's usually Home Depot by a long shot. But let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the Cultural Department podcast, which one of the biggest cultural things and, well, also political things would be the whole pandemic. And, well, turns out, yep, we were lied to. So this is from Nick Sorter, and he says, quote, "Holy crap, the White House just updated COVID.gov to a website outlining how COVID originated in a Chinese lab leak as they exposed Dr. Fauci's efforts to cover it all up. Trump was right again, of course." And there we go, lab leak. You see, Fauci. Yeah, why was his pardon from 2014? That's so weird. Interesting. Now, we'll see if he's ever actually held accountable. He's a government employee, so I suspect not. Any government employee being held accountable is not rarer than winning the lottery, but I mean, how many times have we seen that in our lifetime? It is pretty damn rare. This went pretty viral. Got 1.4 million views and 34,000 likes. One of the first comments, well, not by the number of likes, but I would say this comment is from the most handsome and brilliant individual. Me, the Topping Show on X, and I say, quote, "How is that POS not in prison getting 4 likes?" Which isn't a lot, but Trump would probably say to the effect of, "Those are the best 4 likes on the world. It's all about the quality, not the quantity. The 4 best OGs like the comment of the Topping Show." You also have Sarah Smith saying, quote, "They included this photo of him. Next up, a photo of him in prison." And it's Fauci looking anguished, getting 562 likes. Hunter Eagleman says, quote, "Conspiracy theorists still undefeated," getting 855 likes. Bearded Vet says, quote, "Amazing how he's still walking free among us," getting 345 likes. The Texas One says, "Masterful," getting 41 likes. Mr. Pitbull, though I suspect it's not I don't think it's a singer, unless he has a disproportionate amount of his time on his hands where he can just be on them social medias. Maybe it is. Maybe it's his side hobby. Mr. Pitbull, allegedly, says, quote, "Here's a solution." And it's Bill Gates, Soros, and Fauci behind bars says, "How to prevent future pandemics," getting 210 likes. Cheap Dog Society says, quote, "Rand Paul was supposed to help put Dr. Fauci in prison, but what happened?" Getting 85 likes. Wide Awake Sharon says, "So imagine taking medical advice, from a man who needs a pardon for the medical advice he gave," getting 18 likes. Matt Van Swole says, "I was still pretty liberal during the pandemic. I don't know how, what is or what isn't. I guess I should start digging," getting 533 likes. Dr. Stella says, "It's time for Anthony Fauci to be arrested," getting 348 likes. The Conservative Alternative has picture Fauci says, quote, "Nothing says trust the science like a blanket preemptive pardon," getting 84 likes, which, yeah, with all the things that are done with Joe Biden's auto pen, if I were a gambling man, I'm not really. But if I were a gambling man, I'd probably put money on Biden didn't actually sign that piece of paper. Biden has no idea who's actually pardoned. Also, there's debates on, I mean, is a preemptive pardon even constitutional or legit? I mean, so again, we'll see. At the end of the day, if anyone is actually held accountable, I'm surprised, I mean, with international laws, you can't sue China, as silly as that sounds, even though it was their damn fault. Well, we also, our tax dollars funded it too. But yeah, we'll see if, anyone's actually held accountable. I'm a little bleak in terms of my outlook, but let me know your thoughts and comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting cultural news, you have Austin Metcalf family is swatted, we should say the alleged victim of Karmelo Anthony, who allegedly stabbed the Austin Metcalf to death, because Karmelo Anthony apparently went into his tent, or not his tent, Austin's tent, and he wanted that seat. That's the story we have right now. Now, this comes to us thanks to Benny Johnson, and he says, quote, "Insane. Just hours after getting kicked out of Karmelo Anthony's press conference yesterday, Austin Metcalf's father's home was swatted," which, yeah, interesting. I can't help but notice the father went to Karmelo Anthony's press conference, and when they asked him to leave, he did not stab anyone. He actually just turned around and left. Very interesting differences in behavior. Now, this is without too much further ado.
Better breaking news and an update on the deadly stabbing in Frisco. Frisco police just confirmed a swatting call was made tonight to an address belonging to the victim's father. Now, that's a prank call designed to bring a lot of police to a scene. Tonight, Jeff Metcalf confirms to WFAA he wasn't home when it happened, but he did arrive about 5 minutes later. Now, this is new information, and right now we're working to learn more details. But earlier today, everything stopped and heads turned when Metcalf showed up to a news conference called by the suspect's family. Tonight, Matt Howerton has a desperate plea from Karmelo Anthony's mother.
They came to speak for the accused. Jeff Metcalf
And raise lots of money.
came for his son. The father of Austin Metcalf surprised cameras at a press conference in Dallas Thursday, waiting for the mother of Karmelo Anthony to speak for the first time. Anthony, 17, now charged with murder, out on bond after telling police he stabbed Metcalf in self-defense. Metcalf's father asked to leave the press conference, and then it began like this.
The father being at this press conference. These are my words. Don't quote anybody. Is a disrespect to the dignity of his son.
Metcalf
Yeah, it's a disrespect to the dignity of his son. You know what's more disrespectful? Killing his son. But that's just my 3 cents. Used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation, gotta be 3 cents. Now, this went pretty viral, about 300,000 views and 8.1 thousand likes. One of the first comments comes to us thanks to Cool Christian Engineer, which A+ for marketing, you know exactly what he's up to. It says, quote, 1. Attempted murder needs to have the exact same punishment of the actual murder. Just because you failed doesn't change the intent. 2. Swatting is attempted murder, no matter how you look at it, getting 295 likes, which another phenomenon you see from the tolerant left. That's a joke because they're not really tolerant. Yeah, they swat their opponents in mass, as this has devolved into a political issue as well as a cultural issue. One of the most followed cases in the United States right now. Now, legally, not much significance in terms of I suspect it'll be a pretty straightforward case of, well, I would suspect we'll get the murder charges, but it's not controversial in the regard of the legality, but culturally, all eyes are on this case. A lot of people trying to draw parallels to O.J. Simpson, and I mean, this family is raking in the cash. Apparently, allegedly bought a new Cadillac Escalade, which is like $100,000 rolling piece of depreciation, and apparently they got a new mansion that they're now renting to own or something like that, which is kind of abhorrent that the alleged killer has raised more money or gotten more money than the victim's family, where they actually lost a son, and the family had another son, so they actually lost a twin. Now, you also have Dr. Etiquette saying, quote, the biggest mistake Austin Metcalf's father made was forgiving Karmelo Anthony for killing his son. I know his intentions were good, but I don't think he is aware of the pure evil that surrounds him. Getting 303 likes, which, yeah, that's the downside of people that are, well, a lot of people argue it's a strength or weakness, but yeah, mostly very good people who are also very faith-based will forgive people who hurt them in the most painful ways. I mean, a lot of my family is like this, or, you know, my parents and very faith-based, and they're the ones that are very forgiving. I mean, just for a legal perspective in terms of, I mean, when it comes to civil suits, I don't think the father should have done that. But yeah, the father showed sympathy towards the family that took his son away, which is tantamount, that is being the bigger man, the better man, whatever vernacular you prefer. But but like legally, I would not have done that just for what I suspect. And maybe the family won't even go for a civil lawsuit. Now you also have Mr. Pitbull again, and he's actually he says correct, and he's retweeting Rolling Stone, not the magazine, someone by the name of Rolling Stone, which is almost as ridiculous as a name like Topping. Oh wait, I partially digress. Rolling Stone says, quote, Jeff has been treated so unfairly on social media. On social media. He was attacked and mocked for forgiving Karmelo. As we head into Easter, I was reminded that this is what Christ has asked us to do. How many people would actually give forgiveness for the murder of their son? Getting 113 likes, which, yeah, that's, I don't think the average person would ever. I mean, if someone took away someone who's very, very close to me, I don't think I would have it in myself to forgive them. I'm not hinting at any towards a vigilante justice or anything like that. I just mean emotionally and spiritually. I don't know if I would ever be in a place to forgive them like that. I mean, they're literally taking away. This guy was 17 years old, whole life ahead of him, 4.0 GPA, student athlete, and he's gone. You also have Ankush Shawarma saying, quote, America's black culture. Yeah, I guess I'll caveat saying I don't agree with this, but he's saying, quote, Americans' black culture, twerking, gangsta rap, ebonics, naming your first child after luxury goods, gang violence, didn't miss anything. Getting 121 likes, which I don't have much ground to stand on because, yeah, my name's Topping, like the pizza. Or thanks to the YouTube comments, I know now as an adult, it means something else that is also not great. Well, depending on your viewpoint. But you also have Texas Heat saying, quote, it is entirely unacceptable that this BS continues. We know police/federal agencies can trace these bogus calls back to their source, yet no one is being hauled to courts to face charges. Now, why is that? Getting 223 likes? Yeah, because for many years, justice has only been applied one way of the political aisle and cultural aisle. And yeah, someone should be absolutely arrested for this false swatting. We need to see that. I mean, just a couple weeks ago, we saw a lot of right-wing influencers and news broadcasters. They were all swatted. I think most famously, Josh, one of the broadcasters at Alex Jones InfoWars. And yeah, no negative ramifications yet. Now, again, investigations might very well be underway. Maybe there'll be arrest tomorrow, for all we know. But I mean, historically speaking, people have been swatting other people, don't have any negative ramifications. I mean, we see the same issue with false accusations of people abusing, trying to keep this mildly family friendly, abusing women and abusing people inappropriately abusing people in an adult way. Those false accusations are very rarely you ever see any negative consequences for false accusations. I think that's something else culturally we need to have a coming to Jesus moment. We actually do have a law where if you're proven that as a false accusation, you should have a negative ramifications. I would say the same, if not worse, than what would have happened to the other person. But I partially digress with the modern ADHD today. You have Dr. Brittany saying, quote, Karmelo Anthony is a cold-blooded killer and needs to be put into prison for life. Let him whine, moan, scream racism and riot. He's still a murderer and he can never be allowed back into civilized and a free America. Get 88 likes, which again, technically he's still innocent until proven guilty. I mean, we'll see how it plays out in court, although I think he also did actually admit it stupidly. But you also have Trump gunner saying swatting Jet Metcalf's home after his son's murder is pure evil. Leftists weaponize fake calls to silence conservatives. Karmelo Anthony bond at $250K was a slap in the face. Justice failing. 185 likes for that. And the bond was actually lowered. It was $1 million. Then it was lowered to $250,000 because of the, I don't know if it's because of or just coincidentally the Obama appointed judge. Or let's be honest, probably the Soros appointed judge. But yeah, one of the most viral cases of the moment. And let me know, do you think, will we ever actually know who swatted the family? Will there be any negative ramifications? And is that something our country needs to be taking more seriously? Let me know in the comments because, as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part of the podcast, you have the totalitarian European Union government to blame yet again for why we can't have nice things. Now, this comes with thanks to thedrive.com, which some people might not think is politics, but I would argue, it is. Because it's because of politics. We don't have one of the most historically iconic, cool vehicles, bar none, the Subaru WRX STI, which, thank God, back in the good old days came with a stick shift and all-wheel drive and more horsepower than most people, probably could handle. But nevertheless, this is brought to us thanks to Ronan, who's a writer at The Drive, and they say, quote, Subaru's executives blame Europe for the WRX STI's absence. New, quote-unquote, sporty models are said to be in the works, but Subaru will lean to, electrification to overcome bullcrap emission standards. Okay, I did add that bullcrap to the title. And here you can see the previous STI, which, again, was awesome, and unfortunately for me, cost way too much. Though I still love my little Honda Civic SI, she'll do for now. But yeah, there's a reason we can't have nice things, and it's globalist governments and people who don't vote properly. Again, Europe has some good people over there. Vote differently. Take off the yoke of suppression. I still can't believe the most pathetic is Germany, which leads to GDP, innovation, everything for the European Union. Even then, they bend over and say, our most powerful automotive brands, we'll make craps. We'll stop making the best things we do so that, China will inevitably win with EV wars. Ridiculous, weak, and pathetic, Europe. Pathetic. Now, jumping into the article, they say, quote, with the exception of the limited edition Japan-only model, it isn't sounding like the current generation Subaru WRX will spawn a quicker, more powerful STI. One of the company's top executives blamed its WRX STI's death on Europe's ever stricter emissions norms, while hinting that Subaru could ride electrification back into the sports sedan segment, which, no, absolutely not. I don't think so. Now, this is David Dello. He's the head of Subaru's European division. He said, quote, ask the average person what Subaru means and they'll say STI. True. You can't disassociate that from Subaru, so we need to bring sportiness back to Subaru. Unquote. He also says, right now we can't do it. Europe says we can't because you can't have a gasoline particulate filter that can literally choke your engine. They say he's got a point. In recent years, draconian emissions regulations have kept numerous sports cars from the European market. Nissan, I was going to say, the Volkswagen Golf with the stick shift, they killed the stick shift because it got less emissions, less fuel efficiency, and the European Union killed that car too. I mean, it's disgusting what they're doing. Now, they say Nissan does not sell the Z in Europe because the European Union, because their shrinking European sports car market and specific regulations on emissions made it impossible to put together a viable business case. Renault stopped making hot hatches for the same reason. Honda still sells the Civic Type R, but the model cost $120,762 to buy. and register. What the hell? 107. I had my coffee this morning, caffeine. I am not inebriated. I read that right. Again, this is converted to American dollars. $120,762 for a Honda Civic Type R, which again is a great vehicle, but because of regulation, all that crap and fees, because geez Louise, even MSRP I think is $45,000 to $47,000 unless you go for the super fancy package of the Type R. That's 3 times as much. And people say dealers are evil and they take advantage of us. Oh no one robs more from people than governments. Jeez Louise. They say it's not quite a ban on sports cars, but it's pretty damn close. Yes, de facto ban. Cast in this light, it's hardly surprised that Subaru chose not to renew the WRX STI, which, let's get some nice pictures on the screen. Infinitely more attractive than me, I would say. But, man. And again, one of my neighbors got the last generation Subaru WRX STI. It sounds, the exhaust note, it's like a symphony. And again, it's got a stick shift, big old engine, all-wheel drive. Again, not financial advice. And nearly every car historically has never beat the S&P 500 from an investment perspective. But I can't help but think these are going to jump up in value, the last generation STI, because you have more and more regulation. And I don't see Europeans growing a spine or voting differently or, stopping the totalitarian governments from taking all their freedom away. And shoot, they arrest people for memes in Europe. How pathetic is that? Yet another reason not to give up your rights. Because once they're taken, they are rarely ever given back. And again, there's something iconic about blue WRX STI. You pay a premium for that color. One of my friends got a granite one. Yeah, I think it'd be worth, if I ever win the lottery, I'd get one of these in blue with a gold rim combo. Now, they say, quote, and yet I'm not convinced it's right to hold European regulators accountable for the STI demise. They deserve the full blame for the gradual death of the European sports car market, but how many units of the WRX STI would Subaru have sold there? Not many. Even a decade ago, it's easier to sell sports cars in Europe due to looser regulations and higher demand. The WRX STI largest market is, and the United States by a not insignificant margin. European sales represented a rounding error. They say one key detail is that the decision to can the WRX STI was taken in late 2010s when everyone still believed, argued, and hoped an electric future was right around the corner. Yeah, not so much. Making that happen requires significant investment money for new technology, adopting a greener image. WRX STI is still expensive to develop. It's not the most environmentally conscious car out there. I say, quote, I don't have a crystal ball, but pure speculation, but I'd argue that WRX STI died mostly because it was the wrong car at the wrong time, but do not hold your breath for next generation STI, at least not one powered by a sonorous turbocharged flat 4 engine alone. Now, Delos Doritos says, quote, there are plans to bring back the sportiness to Subaru. Yeah, but yeah, we'll see if that actually does come to fruition. But yeah, again, it's one of the most saddest things is that I believe it's a limited edition, like 500 or 600 cars. It's like, oh yeah, they have the STI, but it's got an automatic transmission, which is abhorrent to say the least for a true sports car enthusiast off-roading machine. And to Subaru's credit, they have one of the highest take rates for manual transmissions in general. It is, I believe, what was it, 86% of the WRX in general? That is one of the best take rates, bar none, in the industry. It's really cool. I love the fact they make these fun stick shift vehicles. I mean, the BRZ, if I had unlimited money for, repairs and maintenance, might look into that. Though it actually has less horsepower than my Honda Civic SI, which is saying something. But again, a great balanced car, great track toy when it's working. And hopefully people vote differently, grow a spine, and maybe we'll get fun cars again. But again, this is a consequence and the ripple effect of politics and how it infects pretty much all of our daily lives, especially if you're someone who's really you're a big enthusiast around cars or firearms. Well, pretty much everything is regulated these days, even down to pillows in the EU. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Ford recalling over 80,000 F-150s because, well, whoops, the brakes might just not work, which, yeah, that's not great, Ford. I still can't believe how many units they sell a year, despite how many recalls. Now, this is brought to us thanks to MotorOne.com. They say, quote, Ford recalls F-150 and SUVs for dangerous brake problem. Over 100,000 vehicles are being recalled, including the Lincoln Navigator, which, that's not good for the investors. Now here you can see their iconic Ford F-150 truck, which, again, has been, for how many years, the most popular truck in North America by number of units sold. Now, this article is credited to Chris Smith over at, again, MotorOne.com. And he says, quote, Ford has a problem with brakes on over 100,000 Ford F-150 pickup trucks, Expeditions, and Lincoln Navigators. It affects older vehicles from 2017 to 2018, and it could lead to a reduced brake function. If left unchecked, it could be ultimately leading to a brake failure. Since that constitutes a very obvious safety risk, Ford has recalled the vehicles. The recall number on Ford is 25S37. It applies to 87,738 Ford F-150s, 30,200 Expeditions, and 5,673 Navigators, all from the years 2017 to 2018, and equipped with a 3.5-liter EcoBoost engine. In total, 3,611 vehicles are being covered under the recall. Whoops. The problem lies in the brake master cylinder. A leak could develop from the master cylinder from the front wheel circuit, allowing brake fluid to enter to the brake booster. As the fluid leaks over time, brake performance could diminish, lose enough fluid, and the brakes will stop working altogether. Drivers should feel a very soft, spongy pedal before things get that bad, although warning notifications on the dash should warn drivers of the problems of the brake system. Assuming the dashboard works at all as well. You're making many assumptions here. And they say the quote, I was going to say, this can't be right grammatically. Is this? The good here is that, as of now? Well, maybe it is. Ford is unaware of any accidents or injuries resulting from the problem. The issue came to Ford's attention in January 2025, courtesy of the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration. Documents at the NHTSA reference a vehicle owner questionnaire about fluid potentially leaking from 2017 Expeditions. The issue went to Ford's critical concern group. That's a thing. They exist. I'm shocked. Next thing you'll tell me Ford has a quality assurance department. They allegedly do. Allegedly. I can't but think they're probably woefully inebriated a majority of their time, just based on the volume of recalls. I'm only partially kidding. Now, they say, quote, which investigate the claims through January, February, and March. Elevated warranty claims were found for Expeditions and Lincoln Navigators, but curiously, the F-150 didn't show a similar trend. In any case, Ford will replace the master cylinder on recalled vehicles. The automaker also replaced the brake booster if there's evidence that the fluid is leaking from the master cylinder. Naturally, this is done at no charge to the vehicle owners. And they say specific notifications will also be going out. Well, shoot, any minute now. April 28th, which, yeah. Again, they always say it's free to the consumer. It is, but your time is worth something. And if this is used as a work vehicle, that's going to cost you something. And dealerships hate it because they are paid from the manufacturer at a very discounted pay rate compared to regular maintenance and upselling to customers. And again, this is the one thing Ford does right in terms of, well, they think they do it right. If you look at the business model, years ago, they stopped making a lot of their small cars because there's not a lot of money to be made in cars and they didn't make them too well. So they said, hey, the thing we sell the most of and we make the most money on is trucks, which again, trucks are highly profitable. It's great that they make them. Shareholders love that. And yet they keep having issues with this is what Ford does. The Mustang is awesome. I love a Mustang. If I had a lottery, I'd probably have at least one. Who doesn't like a V8 and a stick shift? That's awesome. But the fact that this is the one thing you do, that you're known for the Ford F-150, America's truck, the number one truck by number of units sold, the most profitable, important thing you do, especially Lincoln Navigator, a lot of profit in Lincoln brand for all 18 units that they sell here. Only partially kidding with the volume number. But again, you should have double the quality assurance when it comes to the product you're known for and where you make the most profit. So to have yet another vehicle for the Ford F-150, gotta say, Ford, you are certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you can click that button. I really appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or comment. It's a great way to give me suggestion feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.